Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door NetAdmin. Ever since the beginning of Windows, pretty much, every copy of Windows that has come straight from a manufacturer, almost every copy, but we're just going to go with every copy, has had additional applications packed into it. Most of the time, they're things that people really didn't want, really don't have any need for, whether that is trial subscriptions or 30 days free, or here's a bunch of adware supported games. And a lot of the time, people just want to use what they want to use. They don't care for all of that crap. But when it came in with the original installation of Windows, a lot of times there wasn't really a way to get rid of it. Not easily, anyway. Sometimes you could try uninstalling it, but if you ever had to restore your operating system back to factory spec, well, factory spec included all this extra stuff that you didn't want. So for admins like myself, for the longest time, it has been standard practice when you want a clean installation of Windows, you erase the whole thing. As soon as you get a new desktop from a manufacturer, whether that's Dell, HP, Lenovo, anybody else, as soon as you get a new computer, the first thing you do is erase it. You don't want all the stuff that they have in there. Sometimes the manufacturer has preloaded it with security vulnerabilities, as Lenovo did with the Superfish software some time ago. So the thing you do is you just erase it and you install Windows fresh, clean, just what Microsoft includes in Windows, and that's the end of it. But unfortunately, now Microsoft is doing the same thing that all the manufacturers were doing. They're packing in additional software. Sometimes that has been things like Candy Crush Saga. I don't need that in a business. I actively do not want that in a business. In a business, I want people to be doing what they're supposed to be doing. If they're nurses, they need to be looking after their patients. If they are accountants, they need to be working on numbers. Candy Crush is not it. Sometimes that has been other things. Newer versions of Windows often have things like, oh, hey, here's Spotify. Here's a 30-day trial for Office 365. Here's a OneNote. Here's a different version of OneNote. Here's Outlook. Here's a different version of Outlook that we used to call Outlook Express. A clean version of Windows is not clean anymore. This is one of my biggest gripes, personally, with Windows 10 and Windows 11. With Windows 10, I was able to clean it up relatively well. Windows 11 has been much more challenging, because there's actually multiple ways that Microsoft has packed it in. Some applications come pre-installed within the version of Windows, and then there's other stuff that it just downloads the instant it has an internet connection. How do we stop this? There is a way to stop this. There is a way that I have found that you can get a very clean-looking version of Windows to install with none of that other crufty stuff. And then it's just up to you to put what you want on there. In a business environment, that starts with things like Office, including Office 365, but we don't need this trial version. We're going to get rid of it, and we're going to put Office on there properly. Regardless of that, going through the process to actually create a clean version of Windows 11 is not a simple thing. And I've only just figured it out within the last month and a half myself. So we're going to have to do this over multiple weeks, but I'm going to take you through a lot of the inner workings on how to customize a Windows installation image and how to use that to install a system in a customized but very repeatable fashion. Okay? I'm going to assume that you said okay. I'm also going to assume that you said that sounds like it's going to be kind of difficult. It is. But remember, you don't have to get it all in one go. We're going to go through this over time, over several weeks. And the best part is, it's a video. You can rewind and watch it again. And as always, if you have questions or, if you get stuck and you go, hey, next door net admin, I don't know, what is this that I'm looking at? What is this thing? Catch me down in the comments. I'm happy to answer questions if you've got them. But for now, I'm going to try something different. I think, fingers crossed, for being a net admin, I am so not a streamer. But I think I've got something rigged up so that you can actually watch me and I can talk with you while I am actually walking you through something else within Windows, okay? We're going to give this a try. We're going to see what happens, all right? Go on, follow me, and I'll head into the office and we'll start working. All right, so I'm here on my development desktop. Where do we even start? Best place to start would be to download Windows 11 directly from Microsoft. We're not getting this from any dodgy sources. You can look at it. This is just download Windows 11. There's 3 options. We're not going to use the installation assistant. We're not even going to use create media. We're just going to download the disk image. I will just do that. But I've already done it because I'm interested in saving time here. It's here. Windows 11, 23H2 English, x64. I think this is a version 2 ISO that I downloaded at some point. Or maybe it's that already. I don't remember. Regardless, I also have 7-zip installed. And if I open it, or you could just double click it to mount it. That option is there as well. And it'll appear as a virtual disk drive on your computer. That's fine too. But however you access it, you want to get to the sources directory. And then you want to scroll through here and find install.wim. And you want to extract that. Again, I've already done that. So it's actually already here in my C temp folder. This install.windows image file, I've talked about WIM files before in my second video ever. This is where in that video I was moving an installation of Windows from one machine to another. And I walked you through how to use some free tools available from Microsoft to help make that happen. We're going to be using some of those same tools for this. So same idea, but if you extract your install.wim, you've got it right here. Cool. That's where we start. So if we open up a command prompt, and we're going to be using, like I said, the same tools as we did before, in this case, DISM. First thing I'm going to do is get the image info out of this particular file. And you can see your Windows 11 install disk actually has many different versions of Windows, whether that's 11 Home, Home N, Home Single Language, Education, Pro, Windows 11 Pro for workstations, N for workstations. What is all of this? The N version, if I recall correctly anyway, is the European version. You could use it. I'm in North America, so I'm not going to use it. I'm going to be using Windows 11 Pro. And we can see that that is index 6. So when we go to use DISM, we're going to mount the image. And I'm going to, again, say the image file is our install.wim. The index is 6. That's what I've got. Where am I going to mount this? I'm going to mount this in the directory c:"mount so that I know where it is. It's something I put on an awful lot of systems, actually. I'm going to check the integrity of the WIM file as I open it to make sure that there's no corruption. Something I have found is that WIM files can become corrupted a lot easier than I would like them to. Two things help with that. One, check integrity. And number two, the other thing that really helps is to always export a clean copy when I'm done modifying it. This, unfortunately, adds a lot of extra work, but the way that a WIM file works is it does single instance storage. So the reason you can get 11 indexes in this file, 11 different editions of Windows 11, each one 18, 19 gigabytes, and they're all packed into a single 5 gigabyte, 6 gigabyte file, is because when it has one particular file, there's only one copy of that. It is the same for all of those editions of Windows. So why would you pack 11 different copies of it? It's the same file. If it's the same file, you only need one. And then even though you've got an 18 gigabyte image, you'll get some compression to make it, say, 5. But then all you need to do is pack in the differences between the images. What this means, though, is that when you do updates or when you do modifications on an image, if you save it back to that file, to the original Windows image file, now you've got 10 copies of one file and one that's different. Okay, so every time you modify the Windows image file, you're adding changes. You're not deleting anything because it doesn't know if it can delete anything. It might be in use by other editions in the Windows image file. But it's going to create new changes every single time. If you just keep editing that over and over again, what happens is your changes are always incremental and they're getting stacked on top of each other. The moment you have a single corruption in all of it, the whole thing just falls apart. So what I do is I export it every time I make a change to try and say I'm not keeping any of the other stuff. When you do an export, it only takes the files for that particular image. It forgets about all the other changes that have been made. So I'm essentially resetting it to a clean copy every single time. We can see that the image is mounted successfully now. If we go back to our C drive and go into Mount, we now see this is a Windows image. This is our Windows 11 Pro image just from the get-go. It's freshly downloaded from Microsoft. This is what it is. And we can actually make changes to this mounted image, installation image of Windows. And that means if we install Windows from our modified copy, it'll already have some changes right out of the box as we want. And in this case, I'm actually going to get rid of that so that it's not staring me in the face the whole time. I'm going to have to switch to PowerShell because what I'm going to do here is run this command. What is this? Get AppX provisioned package path cmount. What is this? I can see that I'm pointing it at the path where I have mounted my installation image. But what is all this stuff? An AppX provisioned package is the first way that Microsoft packs in additional applications. What is it, though? This basically says that when it's a provisioned package, AppX is just a format in this case. You don't need to worry about that too much. A provisioned package means every time a new user is created on this Windows machine, when the image is installed, every new user created gets provisioned with these packages, whether they like it or not. Yes, you can go in, you can uninstall that application, but that only works for that one user. As soon as somebody else logs on, they get the pack-in packages as well. because it's been provisioned for them. So the way that you stop this from happening is you actually deprovision those packages. You remove them. If they're removed before anybody logs into this system, then they'll never provision. They'll never install for the people on this system in the first place. And that's very useful. You don't have to uninstall it, and you don't have to uninstall it again every single time somebody logs on. But because this has to be done before they log on, it means that, yes, you can do it after you've already installed the system, but by then it's already been installed at least once. So if you alter it before you do the installation, that's what, allows you to do this most efficiently, I suppose. So if we run this command, we're going to get a whole pile of results. And perhaps I should have hit enter before that. But, so, if we go through this from top to bottom, there's a lot of stuff here that we do actually want to keep. But there's a lot of stuff that we probably don't want to keep. Clipchamp. Do we want to keep that? Maybe, maybe not. This particularly fun named one is, I believe, Cortana, the assistant that was introduced with Windows 10. Bing News. No, I don't want to keep that. Bing Weather. No, I really don't want to keep that either. Desktop app installer. Yeah, I probably want to keep that. Gaming app. Get help. There's a lot of things to go through here. And I'm not going to show you the resource right yet, but I want to show you this process so that you understand it when we come across it in a later video, okay? Some of these things are prerequisites for others. As an example, VCLibs, Visual C libraries. If you removed this, suddenly there would be a whole pile of stuff within your Windows install that didn't work correctly. And you may not even be able to get it back in because removing it may have broken a lot of things. So you want to be somewhat cautious with what you remove. You don't want to just go through and remove everything willy-nilly. And you need to actually be careful about what you remove and why. You could go through and do the experimentation, remove a bunch of packages, and then try installing it, see what breaks. I don't have the time for that. If I'm perfectly honest, I don't usually have time for that. So what I end up doing is I end up looking online to see what people have removed and what they reported their experiences to be. And then I can kind of get an idea of what's necessary, what's not, how do I do this most efficiently without unduly breaking my version of Windows. But when you find something, maybe it's like the calculator, I want to get rid of that. I don't actually want to get rid of that. What I'm probably going to get rid of as a demonstration here is right back up at the top. I don't need Bing News. I really don't. What you want then is this package name. And that's why we're using the get AppX provisioned package command, is because what we really want is these package names. The package name is the key part. So once I copy that, my next command would be remove AppX provisioned package. I have to spell it right though. And again, I'm going to be taking it from the C mount path. If I didn't include that path, it would try to remove it from my active version of Windows. But I'm trying to edit this installation. So this installation image, I should say. So I need to make sure I use the path. And then I go package name, and I paste in the package name that I copied. And then when I run that, it'll go through, it'll yank it out of the image. Great. In this case, there's the path it removed it from. Online is whether you're doing this in the online image, the image of Windows that is actually running. It's not. This is an install image that we're customizing offline, so it's false. Restart needed, false. Cool. If I run my get AppX provisioned package in the installation image again, we will see, oops, that Bing News is gone. We go straight from what I explained as Cortana to Bing Weather. So you can go through and run this command again and again, remove AppX provisioned package with the package name you want to remove, and you can remove a bunch of these apps that you don't need, whether that's the solitaire collection. Maybe you don't need that in a corporate context. Maybe in a personal context, you want to keep that. That's fine. Paint. Yeah, I'll usually keep Paint just because it makes a handy tool for people to customize screenshots if there's nothing else. Power Automate Desktop. Yeah, we really don't need that. Store Purchase app. I'd like to get rid of the store, but I really can't. These days, that would break too many things. But to-dos, maybe I don't need that. Windows alarms, do I need that? Windows camera, Windows communications apps. Do I need any of these? Windows maps. Who uses Windows maps? Who in a business needs to use Windows maps? Most people I know of are just going to use Google Maps. Failing that, they might use Apple Maps if it's on their iPhone. I don't know anybody who uses Windows Maps. We can just get rid of it. And that way it won't install for everybody. Xbox, there's a whole bunch of Xbox stuff here, but some of these actually become prerequisites for other applications that might be trying to use them later, so you have to be careful with that. Your phone, Zune Music, Zune Video, there's a bunch of stuff that can be gotten rid of here. But once you're finished making changes, you can go back to your command prompt and you can run dism unmount image. For this, you just need to give the directory where it was mounted before. That is sufficient. But there you have to make a choice here. If you're happy with what you did, good. If not, you want to add /discard. If you do discard, it just unmounts it. It does not save any of your changes. You're good. You can start fresh if that's what you want to do. But I'm happy with removing Bing News, so I'm going to choose commit instead. And I will check integrity as I unmount it to make sure that it's tracking anything that it does. And so when I choose to commit, rather than just unmounting it and discarding all of my changes, the first thing it does is scan the image to see what changes have been made. And you'll see it start in just a second. It'll save the changes first before it unmounts the image. And again, it's going to be taking these changes that have been made and saving them as an addendum to the original installation image. Am I actually going to leave it that way? I could. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I would export that image and then either reintegrate it into the whole thing, or in this case, for business purposes, I might say, you know what? I don't really need my installation image to contain Windows 10 Home. I don't really need my installation image to contain Windows 10 Education. I don't really need all of the N variants for use in the EU. So exporting that will also say I only want just the Windows 10 Pro image that I just customized, and I don't need any of that other stuff. Will that shrink the image? Maybe a little bit. But remember, all of those images that we saw originally were easily in the 18 gigabyte range. And then it got compressed down to something closer to 5 or 6. So am I going to get a huge savings in that? Probably not. Again, we're doing single instance storage here. But what I have seen is when I've gone through and actually pulled out all of the stuff that I don't want, then I can shrink it by maybe 800 meg, maybe a full gig if I'm lucky. But your mileage may vary. It may vary depending on what you pull out. It may vary depending on whether you export it or not. It might vary on when you export it. It might vary on, hey, this is being demonstrated using the Windows 11 23H2 version. It may be different in 24H2. It might be different in 22H2. It all has a lot of different variables, so you may not get the exact same results that I do. Even so, the principle and the techniques remain pretty much the same. So, what we can see here is that the image finished saving the changes, then it unmounted it, and our CMount directory is now pretty empty, except I was sitting in it the whole time. And that's another thing that'll happen. If you leave a window open in the directory, it can't fully close the image, which is a nasty bit of business, sadly, because it means I wasted a whole bunch of time. But the changes should have been saved. Should have been. We're going to see for sure whether this happened or not. Okay. So there we go. If this image was unmounted with commit earlier, then the commit probably succeeded. Okay, cool. So then it wants us to unmount without commit. All right, so in this case, I'm going to say discard. But I can't use discard with check integrity. See, even network admins who do this on a regular basis, sometimes we forget the details and we have to, rely on, hey, you did the wrong thing. Okay, I know how to fix it. Great. So the image is now correctly unmounted. When we go into mount, it's still empty the way it's supposed to be. If we go back to temp, it's now got a new modified date and time. Tells you exactly when I'm filming this. And we can see that the image has increased in size slightly. Just a little bit. Now, I did not actually make any... I did not make any preparations to do this. I did not practice this. So we're going to see just how good my memory is with this. Source image file is install.wim. Source index was 6. Destination image file is... I'll call it install custom.wim for now. You can change the compression from max, fast, none, or recovery. I usually stick with max for everything because it starts with max anyway. I'm not changing the name. I'm not changing the description, so I don't need either of those. But I am going to do check integrity. I don't know if I can use verify with that, but nope, cannot do verify. All right, let's do check integrity then. Alone. And this will take the image that we've customized, image index 6, which was Windows 11 Pro, because we checked that at the very beginning. And that will extract and export a clean copy of that image. Just that image, nothing more, nothing else. And it won't include any of the previous versions of that image. It's just what is marked as currently in the image within the original image file. And when it finishes exporting, we will see that the size has indeed dropped. It's not a huge difference. We've gone from 5.62 gigabytes down to 5.14 gigabytes. So we've lost about half a gigabyte. Part of that was just the fact that we've dropped the other 10 editions of Windows 11 from our customized Windows image. Part of that is we got rid of Bing News. Was Bing News that big? No, it really wasn't. Most of that is just the other editions. But when you go through and you make a whole pile of changes, exporting it is the best way to make sure that you have a clean copy going forward. That's basically all I'm going to show you for today. And that's something that you can do. Remember, you can always use the discard option to discard any changes that you have made. So it's entirely possible for you to go through, practice finding the image, mounting the image, looking at all of the things, practice removing things that you don't think you'll want, and then you can just go use discard and it will leave your original alone and you can practice it again. You can do it over and over again if you want. And when you're happy with it, make sure you close the window first so that you don't run into the issue that I just did. And then you can commit it and possibly give it a try in an actual installation. How would you actually give it a try in an installation? You're going to have to rename your custom image back to the file name that it's expecting, install.wim. And if you used a tool such as Rufus to put your ISO onto a USB stick, that makes it really easy for you to just replace the original install.wim with your customized install.wim, name it back so that it looks like just install.wim, and you can use it from there. But that goes into a little more detail than I was going to cover today. For now, I'm going to leave it there. We now know how to check for AppX provisioned packages. We know how to remove AppX provisioned packages. And we also know how to mount the install image so we can look at that. We know how to save the install image when we're done with it. And we know how to export the install image to make sure that we have a clean copy for anything that we want to do later. That's pretty much it for now. So there we go.
Some of DISM's error messages can look downright scary. I understand that. If you paused the video and took a look at the message that I got, it probably looked pretty unapproachable, quite honestly. Anytime you get an error code that's C00F8925, it's like, what does this mean? I don't understand. And entirely honestly, some of DISM's error messages I have spent hours trying to look up, digging through log files, digging through obscure forum posts, and never really got a satisfying answer. So I understand if an error like that looks really, really intimidating, but you can get through it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If everything crashed and burned, you could always download a fresh copy of the installation media from Microsoft and start everything from scratch. It's okay. You will not damage anything. You will not destroy anything that can't be recovered by just starting over. But yes, starting over is a little bit of a drag, so we try to avoid doing that. Regardless, give it a go, see what you come up with, and in future videos, I'm going to show you some of the other ways that, well, I can't show you other ways that Microsoft includes things because they're just, unfortunately, registry keys that tell Windows to download stuff as soon as it has an internet connection. But
there are things that we can do to prevent this from happening. And then there are also other ways that we have that we can customize the actual installation process to actually determine out of the box what it's going to do. And it avoids some of those nasty requirements, such as you have to have a Microsoft account. No, I don't. Bye. So that's something to look forward to in a separate video down the road. Future. That's the word I'm looking for. The future. Here we go. Into the future. Wonderful. All right. That's probably enough for now. Again, if you have any comments, if you have questions, if you have a really weird looking error message and you'd like to see if I can give you any guidance, I'm all up for that. Leave a note down in the comments. But for now, hopefully you found that enlightening, possibly even enjoyable. I am your next door netadmin, and we will see you next time.